Good evening, good morning. My name is David Okon. Thank you, everybody who have been supporting my channel. Thank you for those who have been sharing with family and friends, clicking notification bell, and liking, and leaving a comment. We are talking about the cost of living. We are linking it to the United Nations. We have been talking about the cost of living in different ways, and today we are going to talk about the main structure of the United Nations. United Nations is an international government. The system of government with various functions. If you watch this video, watch it in line with the rest of the videos, because they are all connected. We are small. We have been 10 months in working. We started in I set up this channel in 2012, but I started work 10 months ago, so we are doing well. Join us. We are still few, but my expectation is that we will grow. And leave a comment below. If you haven't subscribed to this channel. Support it. Subscription is free. You don't need to pay any money, and you don't have to leave your details. So we are looking at the United Nations system. We are linking it to the cost of living crisis. This is a continuation of the video we have produced, and we have given the background discussion. Should be continuing from where we left previously. The United Nations is part of a broader UN system, which includes an extensive network of institutions and entities. Institutions central to the organization are 5 principal organs established by the United Nations Charter: the General Assembly, the Security Council, the Economic and Social Council, the International Court of Justice, and the United Nations Secretariat. A 6th principal organ, the Trusteeship Council, suspended its operations on the 1st November 1994 upon the independence of Palau, the last remaining United Nations trustee territory. 4 of the 5 principal organs are located at the main UN headquarters in New York City, while the International Court of Justice is seated in The Hague. Most other major agencies are based in the United Nations offices at Geneva, Vienna, and Nairobi, and additional UN institutions are located throughout the world. The 6 official languages of the United Nations used in intergovernmental meetings and documents are Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and Spanish. On the basis of the Convention of the Privileges and Immunities of the United Nations and its agencies are immune from the laws of the countries where they operate, safeguarding the UN's impartiality with regard to host and member countries. Below, the 6 organs are in the words of the author Linda Fasulo, an amazing collection of entities and organizations, some of which are actually older than the United Nations itself, and operate with almost complete independence from it. These include specialized agencies, research and training institute programs, and funds, and other entities. All organizations in the United Nations system obey the Noble Mayor principle, which calls for salaries that will attract and retain citizens of countries where compensation is highest, and which ensures equal pay for work of equal value regardless of the employees, and nationality. These are familiar principles of politics and government and also economy. In practice, the International Civil Service Commission, which governs the condition of the United Nations personnel, takes reference to the highest paying national civil service. Staff salaries are subject to an internal tax that is administered by the UN organization. So we are looking at the principal organs of the United Nations, the United Nations General, United General Assembly, the United Nations Secretariat, and International Court of Justice. There are systems of deliberative assembly of whole UN member state administrative organ of United Nations Court of Justice, Universal Court for International Law, may resolve non-compulsory recommendations to states or suggestions to Security Council, UN, SC decisions on the administration of new members following the proposal by the UNCS adopts the budget effects of elects the non-permanent members of the UN, UNCSC, all members of the ECOSOC, the UN Secretary General, following their proposal by the UNCSC, and the 15 judges of the International Court of Justice, ICJ. Each country has one vote. The UN Council, Security Council for International Security Issues, responsible for the maintenance of international peace and security, may adopt compulsory resolutions resolutions as 15 members, 5 permanent members with veto power, and 10 elected members. So this is to give you a rough idea what the United Nations looks like, and the reason I'm trying to give an overview of what the UN Secretary Administrative Wing, the UN Secretary Assembly, UN General Assembly, Deliberative Assembly of whole of UN member states. So this actually, when you talk General Assembly, is equivalent or policy where people actually discuss issues, different issues. And then we have also the administrative organ of the United Nations, the Court of Justice, Universal Court for International Law. And so you have the equivalent of parliament, administration, and law, in short. And these are some of the buildings and some of the work they do. They support the governance, actually supports the other UN bodies administratively. For example, in the organization of the conference, says conferences, the writing of reports and studies, and the preparation of budgets. These are some of the administrative functions. And when you come to the law, you would say that decide disputes between states that recognizes its jurisdiction, issues legal opinions, renders judgment by relative majority. Its 15 judges are elected by the UN General Assembly for 9 terms. Some of the features, and the government's equivalent is it supports other UN bodies administratively. For example, in the organization of conferences, the writing of the reports and and its chairman, the UN Secretary General, is elected by the General Assembly for a 5-year mandate and is the UN foremost representative. And goes quite likely from there. UN Economic and Social for Global Economic and Social Affairs. So we have the security sector, the economic and social sector, and the UN Trusteeship Council. We're looking at the security infrastructure responsible for the maintenance of international peace and security. May adopt compulsory resolution as 15 members, 5 permanent members with veto power, and elected assembly. So these are some of the functions of the security infrastructure and the institutions. And then we have the economic and social council for global economic and social affairs. We have actually talked about this. Is actually an overview. Responsible for cooperation between the states as regards economic and social matters, coordinate, cooperate, and cooperation between the UN and numerous specialized agencies, as 54 members elected by the General Assembly service and serve staggered 3-year mandates. So this is wow. It looked like within assembly, within the other elements such as the security, economic and social, and the UN trusteeship is actually it actually falls to perform the concept of charity, doing charity. It's a third sector element of the organization. Be able to give food and other things and medicine and energy to people who are suffering the cost of living as of now. So we have discussed that in the other videos. Why I believe the UN has failed in its duty because of the cost of living. Because there shouldn't be the cost of living with an organization so integrated as the United Nations. And I have also said elsewhere that the United Nations is promoting capitalism, and so what capitalism does is actually promoting businesses. That is the merit. But also the demerit is that capitalism doesn't actually provide welfare. So welfare is the one, or lack of welfare is the one responsible for the cost of living crisis. We discussed it in another video. If you happen to watch this, watch other videos of the General Assembly of the United Nations, and Mikhail Gorbachev, leader of the Soviet Union, addressing the United Nations Assembly in December 1988. The General Assembly is the main deliberative assembly of the UN, composed of whole member states. The assembly meets in regular yearly sessions at the General Assembly Hall, but emergency session can also be called. The assembly is led by the president, elected by the member state on a rotating regional basis, and 21 vice presidents. The first session convened on the 10th January 1946 in the Methodist Central Hall in London and included representatives of 51 nations. When the General Assembly decided on important questions such as those on peace and security, admission of new members and budgetary matters, its two-thirds majority of these present and voting is required. All other questions are decided as a majority vote. Each member has one vote. Apart from the approval of budgetary matters, resolutions are not binding on the members. The Assembly may make recommendations on any matters within the scope of the UN, except matters of peace and security that are under consideration by the Security Council. These are descriptions of how the United Nations look like. But the substantive equivalents are being mentioned in the other video, that the United Nations is responsible for managing globalization. Globalization is actually responsible for promoting capitalism, which is actually the marketized version of economic system. And in terms of the cost of living crisis, I said in the other videos that the United Nations has failed. It has succeeded to promote development, but you see, by nature, of course, it's also promoting capitalism and the market economy, which means it actually promote businesses around the world. United Nations is part of the failure of providing the public sector, managing the public sector to provide welfare, social welfare. The absence of social welfare is responsible for the cost of living. That is the bottom line. So the cost of living in every respective country is occurring. The UN is also occurring, is actually present, controlling parts of every part of the world almost. It has more than 0.7 billion population in its under its jurisdiction across the globe. So it's actually everywhere and promoting capitalism. So let us continue to look at this outlook. The draft resolution can be forwarded to the General Assembly by its 6 main committees. First committee is disarmament and international security. The second committee, economic and financial. The third committee, the first committee disarmament international, international security. The second committee, economic and financial security. Number 1 is actually security. Number 2, economy. Number 3, social, humanitarian, and cultural. Fourth committee, special political and decolonization. Fifth committee, administrative and budgetary. Sixth committee, legal, as well as by the following 2 committees. General committee is supervisory committee consisting of the Assembly's president, vice presidents, and committee aides. Credentials committee are responsible for determining the credential of each member nation UN representative. This is an intricately constructed system of governance of rule, which is global. We're looking at the United Nations Security Council. We're looking at the late Colin Powell, the U.S. Secretary of State at that time, demonstrating a vital bio with the alleged Iraq chemical weapons report. The United Nations Security Council on Iraq War hearings on the 5th of February. This is some part of historical perspective in February 2003. The Security Council is charged with maintaining peace and security amongst nations, while other organs of the United Nations can only make recommendations to member states. The Security Council has the power to make binding decisions that member states have agreed to carry out under the terms of Charter Article 25. Decisions of the Council are known as United Nations Security Council resolution. So when they make decisions of any sort, they call resolutions. The United Nations Security Council resolution. The Security Council is made up of 15 member states, 5 permanent members, China, France, Russia, the United Kingdom, and the United States, and 10 non-permanent members, currently Albania, Brazil, Gabon, Ghana, India, Ireland, Kenya, Mexico, Norway, and the United Arab Emirates. Leave a comment below if you know the criteria for this membership's infrastructure of the United Nations. And quite interesting. But that is what they are, that's what they do. The 5 permanent members hold veto power over UN resolutions, allowing a permanent member to block adoption of a resolution, though not debate. The 10 temporary seats are held for 2-year terms with 5 members elected each year by the General Assembly on a regional basis. The presidency of the Security Council rotates alphabetically each month. It's highly organized, is quite impressive. It's a good model to look at. And if you like organization, and if you like institution, UN is a place to be. You are the Secretariat, the United Nations Secretariat, and Secretary General of the United Nations. Antonio Guterres, the current Secretary General. The UN Secretary General carries out the day-to-day duties required to operate and maintain the United Nations system. He is the President of the United Nations, the CEO in business terms. In commercial terms, is the CEO, but he's the President, the Chief Executive Officer of United Nations. It is composed of tens of thousands of international civil servants worldwide and aided by the Secretary General, who is assisted by the Deputy Secretary General. So you talk about international civil servants worldwide and headed by the Secretary General. Civil servants are actually administrators, government administrators. The Secretariat's duty include providing information and facilities needed by the United Nations bodies for their meetings and carrying out tasks as directed by the Security Council, the General Assembly, the Economic and Social Council, and other UN bodies. The Secretary General acts as the spokesperson and leader of the United Nations. The position is defined in the UN Charter as the Organizational Chief Administrative Officer, CAO. So instead of CEO, we talk about CAO. Like I said, Article 99 of the Charter states that the Secretary General can bring to the Security Council attention any matter which, in their opinion, may threaten the maintenance of international peace and security. A phrase that Secretary General since Trinqueville have interpreted as giving the position broad scope for action on the world stage. The office has evolved into a dual role of an administrator of the United Nations organization and a diplomat and mediator, addressing disputes between member states and finding consensus to global issues. The Secretary General is appointed by the General Assembly after being recommended by the Security Council, where the permanent members are veto members. So General Assembly is an equivalent of national parliaments, and Minister of Defense is the Security Council, which is actually also, because if you talk about council in terms of weather security or other infrastructure, you're talking of multiple assemblies, like General Assembly is like the overall umbrella of assembly. There's sort of like a conglomeration of assemblies, like many parliaments actually operate under General Assembly. General Assembly is the master's parliament. You could say that there are no specific criteria for the post, but over the years it has become accepted that the position shall be held for 1 or 2 terms of 5 years. The current Secretary General is Antonio Guterres of Portugal, who replaced Ban Ki-moon in 2017. Secretary General of the United Nations. Gladwin Jeb, country United Kingdom, he took office on 24th October 1945 and left office on February 2nd February 1946. He served as acting Secretary General until Lai election. So the other one is Trygve Lie from Norway, elected on the 2nd of February 1946, and left and up to the 10th of November 1956 when he resigned. So he resigned. So Dag Hammer Joel, Sweden, on the 10th of April he started 1953, and on the 18th of September 1961 he died in office. So Othand, Burma, from Burma, on the Thursday, started on the 30th of November 1961, and on the 31st December 1971, first non-European to hold office. So you have Kurt Waldheim, Austria. It began from the 1st January 1972 to 31st December 1981. So you have Javier Perez de Cuellar from Peru, from the 1st January 1982 to the 31st December 1991. So you have Boutros Ghali from Egypt, on the beginning from the 1st January 1992, ending 31st December 1996. He served for the shortest time. Kofi Annan, Ghana, in Africa, 1st January 1997, 31st December 2006. Ban Ki-moon, South Korea, 1st January 2007, 31st December 2016. Antonio Guterres, Portugal, 1st January 2017. He is the incumbent, so he is in office at the moment in the National Court of Justice, or the Court of Justice. The ICJ ruled that Kosovo's unilateral declaration of independence from Serbia in 2008 did not violate international law. The International Court of Justice, or ICJ, sometimes known as the World Court, is the primary judicial organ of the United Nations. So what you are, it is a successor of the Permanent Court of International Justice, and it occupies the body's former headquarters in the Peace Palace in The Hague, Netherlands, making it the only principal organ not based in New York City. So every major organs of the United Nations are based in New York City in America, United States of America. The ICJ's main function is adjudicating disputes among nations. Examples of issues they have heard include war crimes, violation of state sovereignty, and ethnic cleansing. The court can also be called upon by other UN organs to provide advisory opinions on matters of international law. All UN member states are parties to the ICJ statute, which forms an integral part of the United Nations Charter, and non-members may also become parties. The ICJ's rulings are binding upon parties, and along with its advisory opinion, serve as sources of international law. The court is composed of 15 judges appointed to 9-year terms by the General Assembly. Every sitting judge must be from a different nation. Let us look at the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations. The Economic and Social Council, or the ECOSOC, assists the General Assembly in promoting international economic and social cooperation and development. This links directly to the cost of living as a crisis, and whether the UN is doing a good job or not is evidenced by the widespread poverty or wealth across the globe. So it's a mixed bag. But because of capitalism, you see, the wealth created goes to the hand of the few and not to the hand of the many. It was established to serve as the UN's primary forum for global issues, and it is the largest and most complex UN body. ECOSOC's functions include gathering data, concluding studies, and advising and making recommendations to member states. Its work is carried out primarily by subsidiary bodies focused on a wide variety of topics. These include the United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, which advises UN agencies on issues related to indigenous peoples, the United Nations Forum for Forests, which coordinates and promotes sustainable forest management, the United Nations Statistical Commission, which coordinates information gathering efforts between agencies, and the Commission on Sustainable Development, which coordinates efforts between UN agencies and NGOs working toward sustainable development. ECOSOC may also grant consultative status on non-governmental organizations. As of 2021, almost 5,600 organizations have this status. Specialized agencies. The list of specialized agencies of the United Nations. The UN Charter stipulates that each primary organ of the United Nations can establish various specialized agencies to fulfill its duties. Specialized agencies are autonomous organizations working with the United Nations and each other through the coordinating machinery of the Economic and Social Council. Each was integrated into the United Nations system through an agreement with the United Nations under the UN Secretary, UN under UN Charter Article 57. There are 15 specialized agencies which perform functions as diverse as facilitating international travel, preventing and addressing pandemics, and promoting economic development. Specialized agencies of the United Nations, acronyms, agencies, headquarters, established in 1945. So you have headquarters in Gwangju, other headquarters are in Rome, Italy. The agency Food and Agriculture, let me see. The acronym, FAO. I might not go through this now. Let me just skip this and go somewhere else, because these are tables, so I'm not going to look at it. I'll look at something else. I'm just going through this to see a landscape of the United Nations. Specialized agencies of the United Nations, the UN Charter stipulates that each primary organ of the United Nations can establish various specialized agencies to fulfill its duty. So we talk about expertise, technocracy. Specialized agencies are autonomous organizations working with the United Nations and each other through the coordinating machinery of the Economic and Social Council. Each was integrated into the UN system through an agreement with the United Nations under United Nations Charter Article 57. There are 15 specialized agencies which perform functions as diverse as facilitating international travel, preventing and addressing pandemics, and promoting economic development. I've been trying to go through this. Let's try to avoid this table. It's a lot of table, long table, so I'm just trying to avoid it. And let us go look at funds, programs, and other bodies. So what I'm going to say, the United Nations system includes a myriad of autonomous, separately administered funds, programs, research and training institutions, and other subsidiary bodies. Each of these entities have their own area of work, governance structure, and budget, such as the World Trade Organization or the WTO and the International Atomic Energy Agency or the IAEA, the IAEA, whatever you call it, operate independently of the United Nations but maintain formal partnership agreements. When you talk of autonomy, you actually talk about the concept of freedom, such as you see in their equivalent private companies, big corporations. So, the UN is a beast which actually doesn't. It resembles everything, but also it resembles nothing. It's a a cacophony of private companies. It's a corporate entity. Probably one of the biggest single organ in the entire world. And when you talk about autonomy, you talk about the promotion of breaking away from the central system. But you see, these things actually disintegrate to actually split up one thing and then reintegrate to form another. That's why, in as much as they operate independently, they're also required to they are also required to work to cooperate with one another. They're independent, but they are not. So, United Nations perform much of its humanitarian work through this institution, such as preventing famine and malnutrition, the World Food Program, protecting vulnerable and displaced people, the UNHCR, and combating the HIV/AIDS pandemic at the UNAIDS. And this is what I said elsewhere, that United Nations in theory should be a fantastic institution, and it is, but because it is part of capitalism, it's promoting capitalism and the market economic system. It also promotes privatization. It also promotes something called corporatization, which is actually a business concept. It's an institutional concept, which is actually involving things are broken up and put back together. You break up the state and put it together as big businesses. That's what corporatization is, and the UN is part of it to promote capitalism. And that's why the UN has the capacity to produce wealth for a few individuals. Potentially has also the capacity to lift the global citizen from poverty. But in practice, I think it is failing because it's concentrating on capitalism. It's not concentrating on the cultural requirement of the globe, looking after people. And that's why the United Nations is not going to help you or anybody else in any other country to look after you. It's just working for development, and development without understanding the value of humanity is a sticking time bomb. So you find that in as much as the UN is created for peace, it has been a fundamental organ of violence and tyranny, and it's not going to change unless they change their practices to kind of rewrite or even moderate or even change actually their value systems. It's really important to value things like freedom on paper. In practice, if all you focus on is wealth and power, which is what capitalism is about, then you fail because you focus on development, which is a good thing. But development is for people, and people is not for development. In other words, people are more important than things, wealth, including technology and all these things, without contradiction. So let's say, look at membership of the member state of the United Nations. So you have 193 United Nations member states, 2 United Nations observer states, Palestine and Vatican. Only God knows why Palestine and Vatican are the 2 United Nations, because the United Nations is full of mystery. So 2 eligible non-member states, Niue and Cook Islands. I don't even know, at least I have an idea where Cook Island might be. 17 non-self-governing territories. So Antarctica. All the world's undisputed independent states, apart from Vatican City, are member states of the United Nations. South Sudan, which joined on the 14th of July 2021, is the most recent edition, bringing a total of 193 United Nations member states. The United Nations Charter outlines the membership rules. Membership in the United Nations is open to all other peace-loving states that accept the obligations contained in the present charter and in the judgment of the organization, are able and willing to carry out all these obligations. All the member states, 193%, are focusing on development. They are not trying to understand culture, which actually understand the value of humanity over and above wealth and power. Remember, when in my video I've been putting forward proposition to illustrate progress in terms of cultural economy and developmental economy. So the United Nations are pursuing wealth and power at the expense of humanity. That's what I'm saying, because it's promoting capitalism by default. With the best of all intentions, UN fails humanity, because actually inadvertently or willfully, it is actually an organ of war and violence. And at humanitarian level, the UN is a ticking time bomb, in the sense of potentially it is actually going to provide a self-destruct for humanity. That applies. There's nothing wrong with the United Nations. It's not a human thing. It's a developmental problem, which actually focuses on material things and forgets entirely about human beings. That's why some really weird individuals are now the owners of the globe in terms of wealth and power. And this is what I've been saying consistently. This is what I continue to say. Subscribe to this channel if you like the video. If you don't, leave a comment below and let me know why you don't like the channel, or you just do what you want to do. Everybody who watch my video, to love it or not love it, would be doing me a favor, because I need companies. Sitting here talking to myself is interesting, but knowing that people are involved is more interesting. The United Nations Charter outlines the membership rules. Membership in the United Nations is open to all other peace-loving states that accept the obligation contained in the present charter and in the judgment of the organization, are able and willing to carry out these obligations. So you talk about government giving instruction to member states. There's something called compliance. The admission of any such state to membership in the United Nations will be effected by a decision of the General Assembly upon the recommendation of the Security Council, Chapter 2, Article 4. These are actually the directives, if I'm correct. Under the leadership of Sukarno, Indonesia was the first and only country to leave the United Nations. In addition, there are two non-member observer states, the Vatican City and Palestine. The Cook Islands and Niue, both states in free association with New Zealand, are full members of the several United Nations specialized agencies and have had their full treaty-making capacity recognized by the Secretariat. Indonesia was the first and only nation to withdraw its membership from the United Nations in protest to the election of Malaysia as a non-permanent member of the Security Council in 1965 during conflict between the two countries after forming UNEFOR as a short-lived rival to the United Nations. Indonesia resumed its membership in 1966. The group of 77 members of the United Nations, or the G77 at the United Nations, is a loose coalition of developing nations that is designed to promote its members' collective economic interests and create and enhance joint negotiating capacity in the United Nations. 77 nations founded the organization, but by November 2023, the organization has since expanded to 133 member countries. The group was founded on the 15th June 1964 by the joint declaration of the 77 countries issued at the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, or the UNCTAD. UNCTAD. The group held its first major meeting in Algiers in 1967, where it adopted the Charter of Algiers and established the basis for permanent institutional structures. With the adoption of the new international economic order by developing countries in the 1970s, the work of the G77 spread throughout the United Nations system. Similar grouping of developing states also operate in other United Nations agencies, such as the Group of 24 or the G24, which operate in the IMF on the monetary affairs. Let's look at the objectives. The overarching strategy of the United Nations captured in the United Nations Common Agenda, or should we say is captured in the United Nations Common Agenda. Peacekeeping and security, or the United Nations peacekeeping and list of the United Nations peacekeeping missions. This is actually the operational wing is functioning in the fields and also in the regions of the world. We'll look at the opening. The United Nations, after approval by the Security Council, sent peacekeepers to regions where armed conflict has recently ceased or paused to enforce the terms of peace agreements and to discourage combatants from resuming hostilities. If you look at this aspect of work of the United Nations, then you begin to question the sanity of humanity. Since Adam of creating the globe as it stands as it was then, people have been fighting over and over and over. And to be honest, the cost of living crisis is part of warfare. It's a war of the state by the state against the people who are actually considered to be less than valuable. This is the majority of the global population, and the United Nations is part of this agenda. Agenda to promote capitalism, to promote the interests of the few and ignore the desires and the needs of the many. That's precisely why The cost of living, beginning somewhere around the world, has spread across the globe. You could argue that inadvertently or deliberately, the United Nations is an agent of violence and atrocities across the globe, because every essence of capitalism and the way it operates is about war. I mean, what kind of world have we become? I mean, every institution we create, actually, we create for war. Even if we United Nations is supposed to be a peacekeeping, a peace producing, a peace operating institution, or government, whatever you call it. But there's always war. And that's why there's a cost of living. The cost of living is a form of warfare. It's economic war, it's a social war, humanitarian war. It's killing people, and it is unnecessary, because the United Nations, alongside other world governments, are perfectly positioned with every resource to eliminate poverty in 1 year, including in Africa. The fact that there is poverty in Africa, the poverty there is war across the globe, is that an organization like the United Nations is an organization like the United Nations is a very peculiar project. You don't even know what it is. You don't know where it is going, where it is coming from, whether it is for war, whether it is for peace. It's just confusing. And this is because we focus on development and totally ignore human value, what I call cultural economy. So, and I have a feeling more and more people in power now are aliens, because only aliens can actually fight like the United Nations and the world's coordinate, to rule the globe. Only. I mean, what kind of humans are you? Always at war. So these soldiers are sometimes nicknamed blue helmets because they wear distinctive blue helmets. Peacekeeping forces as a whole received the Nobel Peace Prize for what? It should be withdrawn unless they can stop the cost of living crisis immediately, within a year. I don't want to see the cost of living next year if the United Nations is still available, including America, China, Russia. Russia is busy fighting in Ukraine. Where is the United Nations? And European and American are busy giving arms to Zelensky and Ukraine. Instead of stopping these people from fighting, a lot of civilians are suffering and dying in Ukraine. And in a sense, Ukraine and its war with Russia is responsible for the current cost of living crisis. And the cost of living crisis is important to me because it's a sign that we don't respect people. We don't respect one another. That's a cultural failure, like I said. The UN has carried out 71 peacekeeping operations since 1947, and as of April 2021, over 88,000 peacekeeping personnel from 121 nations have been deployed on missions. The largest United Nations mission in South Sudan, UNMISS, which has close to 19,200 uniformed personnel, and the smallest, the United Nations Military Observer Group in India and Pakistan, the UNMOGRP, consists of 113 civilians and experts charged with monitoring the ceasefire in Jammu and Kashmir. The United Nations peacekeepers with the United Nations Truce Supervision Organization, the UNTSO, have been stationed in the Middle East since 1948. the longest running active peacekeeping mission. And where there are peacekeeping missions, that is where there is death the most. Nobody dies. Nowhere will you find in the world people dying more than in the Middle East. That is where the United Nations have been the longest. It is there because the people there have been fighting constantly. That's why United Nations is there. But the question arises that what is the United Nations doing there? It is supposed to stop the war, including America, including the West, Europe, Russia. If the people want peace, and see, you may want peace, but if you don't learn peace, you are going to be a dead dog in terms of peaceful discourses, like we have seen with the cost of living. Cost of living is a form of warfare because people are allowed to suffer deliberately. The governments of the world, the amount of wealth we have created for decades, are lying idle, rotting, deliberately prevented, people being prevented from accessing wealth. Wealth can be used today within 12 months. Let's say 5 years, there will be poverty eradication immediately. Wars could stop if we understand the value of humanity. The United Nations and their work partners could go back to school to learn the value of humanity. There's no point the United Nations doing what it is doing if people continue to die, including dying in Africa especially, and other parts of the world also, like India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. People are dying of poverty, even in most part of Asia, even in America. In Europe, people are still dying of poverty on the streets. People are actually being neglected. They are begging on the street. They are mentally ill, maybe on drugs, alcoholic. The state has to take care of these people because that is what the state is about. The state's function is to look after people, its citizens. That is what it is said to do. That's why it has guns and bombs, it has money and wealth, it has the land. It controls everything, and it gives opportunity these privileges to the few and not to the many. But if the many are destroyed because of violence, then the few will also be destroyed. You cannot destroy the majority of the population due to violence and hope for humanity to survive. Humanity will go extinct the moment the poor of the world are exterminated. As soon as it's not going to take 100 years, you will not see any human being. Human beings are actually destined for extinction. If we don't learn the culture now and begin valuing humanity over and above anything else, insane people should be removed from power, including people raiding the United Nations are either wizards or total lunatics. You cannot be out so much power. And people are dying. The UN is there. We saw it in the Middle East. We have just seen it. The study by the Round Corporation in 2005 found the United Nations to be successful in 2/3 of their peacekeeping efforts. Success is all things to all man. Success in doing what? Peacekeeping for who? So, when people die in the Middle East, so many people dying around the world, you're keeping peace for who? Are you actually killing people or preventing the death of people? Is that the definition of peace? How do you define peace? You kill the majority of the population to protect the few. Is that peace? Or you are actually preventing the death of everyone, including the poor and the rich? Which one is it? Then how come so many people are dying and the environment is now killing people? Diseases, viruses are killing people, and wars and guns and bombs are killing people. And you call that success? Success in what sense? Peace. What is peace? Peace for who? One human being dying out of war is one person too many. That you don't call that peace. The word peace should be withdrawn from United Nations participation. So it compared efforts at nation building by the United Nations to those of the United States, and found that 87.5% of the United Nations cases are at peace, as compared to 50% of the United States cases at peace. So where is the peace? What is the meaning of peace? Africans are dying of famine. Women in Africa are dying of childbirth. Africans are dying of curable diseases. The rest of the globe is suffering the cost of living. Is that peace? Peace for who? For the few or for the many? I say this. When we fight like wicked people, whether we are poor or rich, then my message is there is no peace for the wicked. Because we keep fighting and killing each other and we call that peace. Nonsense. Also, in 2005, the Human Security Report documented a decline in the number of wars, genocide, and human rights abuses since the end of the Cold War, and presented evidence, albeit circumstantial, that international activism, mostly spearheaded by United Nations, has been the main cause of the decline of armed conflict. There is an economic war which is worse than actually military war. That is represented by the cost of living crisis. And that's why I'm talking about it. Poverty is a new weapon, the new guns and bombs. And the United Nations or any commentator should keep quiet until poverty is eradicated immediately by America, by Europe, by Asia, by the Middle East and Africa, under the United Nations or under something or somebody else. Otherwise, just shut up and say nothing about peace, because we need to really stop behaving like perverts. People are dying of poverty, that are incurable diseases in the United Kingdom, in America, in every part. People cannot access healthcare. People cannot access food, basic food. The majority of the population, only the few have been given wealth. Is that peace? Yes, for those who are privileged, the multimillionaires and multi-billionaires, there's peace for them. For now. But because of the violence, economic violence, political violence, psychological warfare, and biological warfare, environmental warfare, every element of society is being weaponized to destroy humanity by crazy people, by people who are psychopaths. They are ruling the world. They are aliens. They are not even humans. So every good human out there work together at the United Nations, in America, in the UK, wherever you are. If you are still human, the human person care for another human being. If you don't care for humans, know that you are an alien. We don't need you. It is our function to actually disarm you, get you out of power, so that we begin the process of saving humanity. Otherwise, there is going to be no peace for the wicked. Situation in which the United Nations has not only acted to keep the peace, but also intervened, include the Korean War and the authorization of intervention in Iraq after the Gulf War. Same old story, same old United Nations, same old the globe, the global power. Further studies published between 2008 and 2021 determined United Nations keeping operations to be more effective at ensuring long-lasting peace and minimizing civilian casualties. I say no peace for the wicked. If there is poverty, there is no peace for the wicked, including the poor and the rich alike. because poverty is an evidence of wickedness. The United Nations buffer zone in Cyprus was established in 1974 following the Turkish invasion of Cyprus. The United Nations has also drawn criticism for perceived failures. In many cases, member states have shown reluctance to achieve or enforce Security Council resolutions. Disarmament in the Security Council about military action in intervention are seen as having failed to prevent the Bangladesh genocide in 1971, the Cambodian genocide in the 1970s, and the Rwandan genocide in the 1994. Similarly, the United Nations inaction is blamed for failing to either prevent the Srebrenica massacre or complete the peacekeeping operation during the Somali civil war. The United Nations peacekeepers have also been accused of child rape, soliciting prostitution, prostitute and sexual abuse during various peacekeeping missions in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Haiti, Liberia, Sudan, Burundi, and Cote d'Ivoire. Every time an organization like the UN is being criticized, it means they want to bring changes. They are now targeting the human personnel at the United Nations to remove them, to replace them by robots and machines. It's happening with the police, the military, the lawyers, the legal communities, the judges, medical doctors have now been accused of killing people. If they are now being accused of killing people today, you mean they have been killing people. Medical doctors have been killing people. That's what they mean. So why are you bringing it up? If the police have been raping people, they have been maybe killing people, maybe doing atrocities in the military, why you bring it now? You have kept quiet all these years. These people haven't been good, or they have been good. Only now you're bringing this out, which means you begin to accuse somebody before you destroy them. And actually, what they are looking to do is to destroy every human personnel within the military, within the industry, trade, to replace them with machines. So to provide an excuse, to confuse people, because the agenda is clear. And that's why there is the cost of living, because people are losing their jobs. And people who have been serving, sacrificing, mostly actually the majority of the population who have been in the military, the police, the forces, the humanitarian, they now want to get rid of them. That's why they are being accused. I'm not saying they were not doing what they were accused to do, or they are doing it, but assuming that they were doing it, then the authority knew, must have known. If they didn't know, then they should explain to us why they didn't know, and if they knew and they didn't tell us why are they not telling us now? So they have been keeping record of atrocities, of human wrong within this institution, within this organization, and they've been keeping quiet in it, and now using it to destroy the people who they say have been helping to bring peace. And the reason for that is that they want to replace them with robots and other form of machines like drones and things like that. Because you see, capitalism uses you to create wealth. When they no longer need you, they dump you or destroy you. Even if you create problem for them, they will destroy you. It's a very violent system, if not really managed by people who are sane. Unfortunately, the people who are now owning wealth are mainly aliens who are actually psychopaths. They are extremely violent, and that's why there is the cost of living. And the cost of living is just the beginning. And don't think it is going to go away. It may change shape and forms, but don't be fooled. Scientists cited United Nations peacekeepers from Nepal as a source of the 2010 Haiti cholera outbreak, which killed more than 8,000 people. In addition to peacekeeping, the United Nations is also active in encouraging disarmament. Regulation of armaments was included in the writing of the United Nations Charter in 1945 and was envisioned as a way of limiting the use of human and economic resources for their creation. Just like I said, disarmament simply means disarming the human equivalents of the military to be replaced by robots and machines. And they are going to be so dangerous. I think there are some also aliens who visited the Earth, and they now have integrated. They have copied the bodies and and the features of humans. They look like humans, but they are aliens. And that's why there are types of violence you find even in Africa among black people and white people alike. This kind of violence, the one they like to see in Ukraine and between Russia and Ukraine, it doesn't make sense, because if you are not an alien, you can't fight like that. Why is Russia fighting Ukraine? Why are people fighting in Africa? What for? See, these are people who are totally insane, and they have so much poverty. We saw it in Uganda, where I come from, Idi Amin. Allegedly, Idi Amin was actually put there by the British and Israel. And it was probably the British and Israel who removed him. And these are replicated, not only just Britain, but big powers. You know, we have the Wagner Group, you know, in Africa, in other parts, in Ukraine. And every time you see them, they're killing so many innocent people, young people, poor people, are the ones being killed in these wars. And every policy is rigged against the many who are poor, which actually over 90% of the world population are living in poverty. They want suffering the cost of living. And this should stop. We need real humans to have power. We need to remove aliens and psychopaths from the United Nations, from America, from every part of the world, wherever they behave, with or without machine. If we bring machine, and machine is being controlled by psychopaths, the globe will see terror, state terror, as never seen before. We need civil people, people who understand the value of humanity, normal people. We don't like abnormal people ruling over the world. It is very dangerous, and that's why there is a cost of living, and it's not going to stop. There will be more. We suffered COVID-19. We don't even know where COVID-19 started from. We don't know what it is. We don't know. See, if you ask yourself, what is the cost of living crisis? I say the cost of living crisis is extremely stupid. That's all I can say, including United Nations. What is United Nations doing? Leave a comment below. Regulation of armaments was included in the writing of the United Nations Charter in 1947, and was envisioned as a way of limiting the use of human and economic resources for their creation. The advent of nuclear weapons came only weeks after the signing of the Charter, resulting in the first resolution of the first General Assembly meeting calling for specific proposal for the elimination from national armaments of atomic weapons and of all other major weapons adaptable to mass destruction. The United Nations has been involved with arms limitation treaties such as the Outer Space Treaty, the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons, the Seabed Arms Control Treaty, the Biological Weapons Convention, the Chemical Weapons Convention, and the Ottawa Treaty. 3 United Nations bodies oversees arms proliferation issues: the National Atomic Energy Agency, the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, and the Compensation Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organizational Preparatory Commission. Additionally, many peacekeeping missions focus on disarmament. Several operations in West Africa disarmed roughly 250,000 former combatants and secured tens of thousands of weapons and millions of munitions. Human rights. One of the United Nations primary purposes is promoting and encouraging respect for human rights and for the fundamental freedoms of all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion, while member states pledge to undertake joint and separate action to protect these rights. Eleanor Roosevelt with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1949. In 1948, the General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, drafted by a committee headed by American diplomat and activist Eleanor Roosevelt, and including the French lawyer René Cassin. The document proclaims basic civil, political, and economic rights common to all human beings, though its effectiveness toward achieving these ends has been disputed since its drafting. That's why I said until we learn the value of humanity, the new cultural economy under United Nations jurisdiction, for example, we struggle in vain. Development, wealth, power in the hands of the few and not in the hands of the few. And we end up not in the hands of the many. We end up with the light of the cost of living crisis as a symptom. It's not the only one. After the cost of living, something else is going to happen. No rest for the wicked. The declaration serves as a common standard of achievement for all people and all nations, rather than a legally binding document, but it has become the basis of two binding treaties, the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights and the International Convention on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. In practice, the United Nations is unable to take significant action against human rights abuses without a Security Council resolution, though it does some substantial work in investigating and reporting abuses. In 1979, the General Assembly adopted the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, followed by the Convention on the Rights of the Child in 1989. In 1979, the General Assembly adopted the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. With the end of the Cold War, the push for human rights action took a new impetus. The United Nations Commission on Human Rights was formed in 1993 to oversee human rights issues for the United Nations, following the recommendation of that year's World Conference on Human Rights. Jacques Fomerand, a scholar of the United Nations, described the organization's mandate as United Nations Commission on Human Rights. The United Nations Commission on Human Rights was formed in 1993 to oversee human rights issues for the United Nations, following the recommendation of that year's World Conference on Human Rights. Jacques Fomerand, a scholar of the United Nations, described the organization's mandate as broad and vague, with only meager resources to carry it out. This is an accurate observation because meager accuracy, meager resources to carry these resolutions is a familiar traits, familiar story, because I mentioned capitalism, which actually has abandoned the public sector. The public sector is the one to provide for national security on the front of national boundary, sovereignty, security in terms of the physical element like boundaries, like natural resources, security on food, energy, society, social security, like protecting families, women and children. All these aspects of security is provided by the public sector. Now, if the United Nations is promoting capitalism, it means it's also promoting privatization, which is actually at the heart of capitalism. which is a betrayal of capitalism itself, until or unless the public sector is there to provide the welfare economy which provides for humanity. And this is now missing, is being shut down. The public sector is being shut down. Factors like such as the United Nations are actually part of the conspiracy, either advertently or inadvertently, because every power is now operating capitalism, and that's what you talk about: cooperation, harmonization, and whatever you want to call it. So in 2006, it was replaced by a Human Rights Council consisting of 47 nations. Also in 2006, the General Assembly passed a declaration of the human rights indigenous people, and in 2011 it passed its first resolution recognizing the rights of members of the LGBTQ plus community. These are what we call sometimes homosexuals. The United Nations bodies responsible for women's rights issues include the United Nations Commission on the Status of Women, the United Nations Development Fund for Women, and the United Nations International Research and Training Institute for the Advancement of Women. The United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, or one of these three bodies, with a mandate to oversee issues related to indigenous peoples, held its first session in 2002. So we're going to look at the economic development and humanitarian assistance. So the Millennium Development Goals, eradicating extreme poverty and hunger, to achieve universal primary education, promote gender equality and empower women, reduce child mortality, improve mental health, combat HIV/AIDS, malaria, and other diseases, ensure environmental sustainability, develop a global partnership for development. Another primary purpose of the United Nations is to achieve international cooperation in solving international problems of an economic, social, cultural, and humanitarian character. Numerous bodies have been created to work towards this goal, primarily under the authority of the General Assembly and the ECOSOC. In 192 United Nations member states agreed to achieve 8 Millennium Development Goals by 2015. The Sustainable Development Goals were launched in 2015 to succeed the Millennium Development Goals. What do we get? The cost of living crisis. I think we can shame the devil. The SDGs are an associated financing framework called the Addis Ababa Action Agenda. You see, all these are very colorful description of what is set out to do. But we want results. And the result we see now is the cost of living crisis. We need it addressed. We don't need to see now a single member of the global community, global citizen living in poverty. Zero. United Nations is a power to exceed any powers. It is headquartered in America. What is he using its power for? If we cannot eradicate poverty, because eradication of poverty is proof that we have actually realized the value of humanity. We don't want aliens running our worlds, killing people by keeping them in poverty, like allowing the cost of living to exist. This is insane. The United Nations Development Program, or the UNDP, an organization for grants-based technical assistance, is one of the leading bodies in the field of international development. The organization also publishes the United Nations Human Development Index, a comparative measure ranking countries for poverty, literacy, education, life expectancy, and other factors. The Food and Agriculture Organization the FAO promotes agricultural development and food security. Go to Africa, Go to people who own land still in Africa and help them grow food. If you are really a United Nation, if you are the West, if you are the East, if you are a developed country, if you are American, Europe, China, stop fighting in Ukraine if you are Russia or Ukrainian. Go to Africa. Help the Africans to be energy independent and food independent. Provide food security tomorrow. Stop behaving like wizards. Help people who need help. Value humanity. You are fighting using poverty as a weapon of war. Mass destruction. Poverty is a weapon of mass destruction. So the Food and Agricultural Organization, or the FAO, promotes agricultural development and food security. The United Nations Children's Fund, or UNICEF, was created in 1946 to aid European children after the Second World War and expanded its mission to provide aid around the world and to uphold the Convention of the Human Rights for Children, the human right of the child. 3 former directors of the Global Smallpox Eradication Program reading the news that smallpox has been globally eradicated in 1980. The World Bank Group and the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, are independent, specialized agencies and observers within the United Nations framework. The United Nations and the IMF have provided funding for Africa and instructed them to build capital and infrastructure and excluded Africans from investing in revenue, such as schools for children going to school, hospitals for people being treated for medicine, food for people actually, African government to eradicate poverty. This is wrong. We need a new cultural economy under the United Nations jurisdiction. We need it today. So the World Bank Group, like we said, they were initially formed separately from the United Nations through the Bretton Woods Agreement. The World Bank provides loans for international development, while the IMF promotes international economic cooperation and gives emergency loans to indebted countries. Cooperation means cooperate with capitalism by preserving global wealth for the few, not the many. In Jordan, the United Nations Health and Child UNHCR remains responsible for the Syrian refugees and the Zatari refugee camp. We have enough of refugees. We don't want to see it anymore. We don't want refugee camps also. Demolish refugee camps. Let these people actually be integrated among the community. It is actually wickedness, and including both people in Europe. It's an abomination. It's actually evil, and it's the function of somebody who is inhumane. People who actually allow people to die at sea are inhumane, they are wicked, they are aliens, and there's no peace for the wicked. The World Health Organization, WHO, which focuses on international health issues and disease eradication, is another of the United Nations' largest agencies. In 1980, the agency announced that the eradication of smallpox had been completed. In subsequent decades, the World Health Organization eradicated polio, river blindness, and leprosy. The Joint United Nations Program on HIV/AIDS, or UNAIDS, coordinated the organization's response to the AIDS epidemic. The AIDS epidemic is at large. We don't know where it came from. Some people actually conspire to say or promote a conspiracy theory that it was created deliberately, including COVID-19, including cancer, including malaria. The truth is out there, but there is no smoke without fire. The weaponizing of environment, the weaponizing of viruses, the weaponizing of food to kill people is a possibility because there is so much wickedness among the power brokers. and there is no peace for the wicked. The United Nations Population Fund, which also dedicates part of its resources to combating HIV, is the world's largest resource of funding for reproductive health and family planning services. Reduction of human population is wrong, because the world is enough. Why are you trying to reduce the population of the world? Is somebody using HIV and AIDS to kill people, to reduce their population? Is somebody using poverty, food poverty, energy poverty, homelessness, drugs, and all these other dangerous things, hospitals? Are we weaponizing society to reduce the population of the world? What are we afraid of? Because we are wicked. We need to learn the value of humanity. This applies to the rich and the poor. Because we cannot allow fear to control us. So what are we trying to do? Ask the conspiracy theories. Along with the International Red Cross and Red Crescent movement, the United Nations takes a leading role in coordinating emergency relief. The World Food Programme, or the WFP, provides food aid in response to famine, natural disaster, and armed conflict. People do not need handout. The United Nations should help Africans to grow their own food. Poor people should be given land to grow their own food. If commercial farmers cannot, we don't need supermarkets. We don't need shops which sell food. Food should be provided by the state for free. Energy should be provided by the state for free. Healthcare should be provided by the state for free. Education should be provided by the state for free. The world is enough. There is enough wealth for everyone. Let us stop acting like wizards and witches. The organization feeds an average of 90 million people in 80 nations per year. People are not children. They don't need to be fed. The welfare system around the world is a disgrace. Being employed by employers who do not pay well, are decent pay, who abuse employees by using wrong employment laws, is a form of wickedness, and it should stop. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the UNHCR, works to protect the rights of refugees, asylum seekers, and stateless people. There is nothing like stateless people. Every citizen has a state, and every part of the world is the territory of a human being, especially under the auspices of the global economic system. If that is the truth, if it is a form of wizardry or some spooky kind of agenda, then stop. We want peace, not war. So you don't keep feeding people. People are not dogs. People can work with their own hands. They need dignity. Stop helping people. Stop the war and let them develop their lands to be independent economically, financially. Let them produce their own medicine. Everybody can be a doctor with technology. Can be a medical doctor, medicine man or woman. We don't need institutions. We don't need government. Shut it down. Give back our lands and give us the money we worked for. The poor work for the rich. Now the rich are owning wealth and creating things like the cost of living crisis. That is the problem. It's a form of violence, and these people could be accused of murder, but this is not written in the law, so they get away with murder. Moral murder. UNHCR and the WFP programs are funded by voluntary contributions from governments, corporations, and individuals through though the UNHCR's administrative costs are paid by the UN's primary budget. Environment and climate. Further information on the United Nations Environmental Programme, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, beginning with the formation of the United Nations Environmental Program, the UNEP in 1972. The UN has made environmental issues a prominent part of its agenda. A lack of success in the first 2 decades of the United Nations work in this area led to the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 1992, which sought to give new impetus to this effort. Now, if people are going to campaign for environment, they should also campaign for development. The environmental hygiene without food hygiene is rottenness. Priority is to produce enough food for all, energy for all, housing for all, transportation, schools, healthcare for all, before we begin to talk about environment, because the poor should get out of poverty first, and then let us start cleaning. Who are we trying to clean the environment for? If wealth of the nation is concentrated in the hands of the few, and the majority are actually languishing, suffering from the cost of living crisis, it's a total nonsense, including nonsense from the United Nations. In 1988, the UNEP and the World Meteorological Organization, the WMO, another UN organization, established the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, which assesses and reports on research on global warming. If the rich think the world is only enough for them, so that they now concentrate on cleaning up the globe, maybe destroying the rest of the pieces they don't want, then they have something else coming. The poor people should be got out of poverty, and then we work together to clean up our environment. We have people who are so rich, who are now concentrating on environmental cleanup before eradicating poverty. We need poor people, the 90%, to get out of poverty first, and then we look at the environmental issue as a human species, because we need peace, not war. The UN-sponsored Kyoto Protocol set legally binding emissions reduction targets for ratifying states. Other global issues. Since the United Nations creation, over 80 colonies have attained independence. The General Assembly adopted the Declaration on the granting of independence to colonial countries and peoples in 1960 with no votes against, but abstention from all major colonial powers. The United Nations works toward decolonization through groups including the United Nations Committee on Decolonization. The committee lists 17 remaining non-self-governing territories, the largest and most populous of which is the Western Sahara. The United Nations declares and coordinates international observations that bring awareness to issues of international interest or concern. Examples include World Trade Tuberculosis, a World Tuberculosis Day, Earth Day, the International Year of Deserts, and desertification. Next time we're going to look at funding of the United Nations. Thank you for watching this video. And like I said before, we need to learn the cultural economy, the new cultural economy, which is actually the global component. We need to look at our developmental hygiene. We need to encourage technology, science, engineering. We need to work together. People who are still human should come together, whether you're poor or rich, because the world is enough. It is our inheritance. We don't want aliens and psychopaths. Whether you are multimillionaires and a multi-billionaire, or you are just a poor person suffering the cost of living, we do not want wickedness. We want hygiene, cultural hygiene, developmental cleanup. We need a better world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel if you have watched this far. Thank you so much if you venture to watch this far, and